Hello again, and I'm back this time with date functions. What are date functions? There are several models used in Python for generating and formatting date and time. Some of the popular models are DateTime, we have time, we have the Pytz, we have DateUtil modules. These are all several modules that are used in Python, and there are other ones, but these are the popular ones. DateTime is one of the most popularly used date module for manipulating date and time. Commonly used classes in this DateTime module includes the date class. The date class prints date-specific data. We also have the time class. The time class prints time-specific data. And we have the DateTime class. The DateTime class, as the name implies, prints date and time-specific data. We also have the Timedelta class. The Timedelta class generates time difference. You can import DateTime module by using this syntax: import DateTime. This imports all the DateTime modules and its classes. Of course, you can also say from DateTime import date. This will import only the date class module, and as well you can do the time module from DateTime import time. Will import the class module, and also from DateTime import DateTime will import the DateTime class. So let's take a look at the date class. The date class, of course, like we showed you, if you want to import the date class, you say from DateTime import date. This gives us the date class, and then we can work on the date class. For instance, if we want to get today's date, we can say date today. If you want to see the result, of course, we'll print it out to the standard output. It's going to print out today's date because this is the date functions and it returns date specific data. We can also print out, say, print the year. So that will be today.year. It provides a year method that will give us the year. It also provides a month method. So let me change this to months. It provides a month method. The 10th month, you see the date is 2021 on the 10th, and this is today's date right here. And again, it provides the day, the very day, the method for the day. So that is taking the day. Day now is speaking from the day, the variable date today. So I'll say day. So you see the day is 30, the month is 10, and the year is 2021. There are definitely some other functions that are provided for you. Of course, if you want to see that, you can put there are dates in the standard output for you to see all that is provided. You can see from ISO formats, mean, month, time tuple, string format, weekday, and all that. So you can look at that. You can do it right here and see what exactly it does. And of course, you can also print out help functions for specific dates. Functions you want to know what it does. For instance, the weekday function, I can say date.weekday. So date.weekday is going to print out that information for me on weekdays. So date.weekdays returns the number of the week represented by the date. So now let's take a look at the time function. Let me comment out all this. Comment this out also, and I'm gonna bring in the time function from DateTime import time. The time class in the date module gets a specific time. That's what it does. And then it prints the time out in the format hour, minute, and .ms microseconds. So it prints out 2 digits hour number, 2 digits minutes, 2 digits, all separated by column except the microseconds. The microseconds is the seconds dot microseconds. That's the printout format for date. So if I say time right now, it's going to print out the time. Let me do a print of that. So it's going to print out a time for me, and it's going to print out 000, which is basically printing out the time format. But if you want to print out a specific time, you're going to have to specify right here. I want to print out 23:13 23. That is going to be comma and comma. So to print out time is going to be the hour, comma, the minutes, the second. So right here you can see we're printing out 23 hours, 12 minutes, 23 seconds. And of course, if you want to add the microseconds, you can also do that with a comma. So it's going to add the microseconds. That's 23 hours, 12 minutes, 23 seconds, and this microseconds. Now let's look at the DateTime class. We've looked at the time class. We've looked at the date class. Now let's look at the DateTime class. So of course you can say from DateTime import DateTime. So this DateTime class is in the DateTime module. This put together date and time in one class. So DateTime class syntax is DateTime year, month, day, hour, minute, second, and then microseconds. So you're gonna this is the full way to define the DateTime function. You actually don't have to put all of this parameter in it, but this is a full definition. So let me comment this out right now. So let's generate a new date, a sample date, new date, using the format we just explained above. Of course, we've imported DateTime right here, and let's do 2021 10. That's the month. You can see right here, year, month, day, which is hour, minute, seconds, then microseconds. So it has it all written there. So I'm just gonna, you can see I have this value right here, year, month, day, hour, minute, seconds, and microseconds. Let me print that out here, new date. So new date is gonna print out a date. Let's print out the year for this. I can use print new date. The year parameter is going to print out the year. Let me write year here. It's going to print out the year. And also, if I want to do the months, this is also like what we did with dates. So it's just easy. The same way we declared all this, the same way we call that year 2020, months, the 10th month, day, hour, minutes, seconds. Note that it is in the singular, second, not seconds, microseconds. So you see, it actually broke this down into the year, the month, the day, the hour, minutes, seconds, and microseconds, as is written here in the DateTime output. The DateTime class also have a method for retrieving only the date and the time. So in this example, I'm just going to print out using new date, and I'm going to print out only the date. So you see right here, it printed out only the date, and I can also print out only the time. New date, the time. So this print out only the time. So because DateTime is a combination of date and time, you can print just the date out and also the time. You can also declare a DateTime object without putting the time and parameters. So let me copy this and put that information here. I'm going to call it DT1, and I'm going to take out all the time information, the hour, the minutes, and the seconds. So if I print out DT1 now, okay, let me comment out all this so you can see. Printing out DT1 will print out the DateTime information, but it will default the hour, minute, and seconds to 0. You can subtract the value of two dates to get the number of days in between. So let's have another date. I'm going to store another date, DateTime, and this will be 2022 March 3 and 10. If I say difference equals DT2 minus DT1, and I print out the difference, what you see is 33 days with no time. Of course, I can add the time here just the same way I did this one. I can add the hour, minute, and seconds to any of the items here, and it's going to show that difference in this. But note that when you subtract to DateTime, it returns what is called a time delta. Let me print out the return type, the type of difference that is returned. It returns a time delta. Time delta is the class that is used for subtracting and adding dates in Python, and that is what we'll be doing next. Time delta returns difference between two date objects. It is basically used for comparing date objects. There are mathematical operations that can be done using time delta. You can add and do subtraction. You can also do subtraction and addition unary operation, and you can divide and also multiply a time delta instance with an integer. You can also do comparison with a time delta. To instantiate a time delta, you'll do from DateTime import time delta. This activate time delta in your code, and the syntax for time delta is time delta, day, seconds, microseconds, milliseconds, minutes, hours, and week. Yeah, it's not really intuitive because it's all mixed together. A better way you can deal with time delta is to say time delta and use named parameters. So if you want to do hours, you say hours 20, or if you want to do days, you say days, say 10 days. So let's do this example. I'll just say timed equals day 20. So, and I'm gonna print out time D. So you can see here it has 10 days. If I say hours is 10, it's gonna show you 10 hours. If I say 10 days and hours equals to 2, so it's gonna show you 10 days, 2 hours. You can do it for days, for seconds, for microseconds, even for weeks. So now I have 10 days here. I can say weeks, add 2 more weeks equals to 2 more weeks. 2 weeks will be 14 days, and then plus another 10 days, that will be 24 days, and then 2 hours. You can do that for minutes, you can do that for seconds, whatever number of days or number of time you want to specify. So when you have a time delta, You can add or subtract a date time using the time delta. So let's take an instance. We have DT1 that is 2021, 10 and 28. It has this data. I can come here and say difference is DT1 minus timed. If I print out difference now, you would notice that it has changed. It's no longer, okay, let me print out DT1 and put a little mark to differentiate it. So here you can see 2021, 10, 28, but at the moment we reduced it by 2 weeks and 10 days. So you can see right here the date has reduced. It's no longer 28 days, it's now on the 14th. 24 days has been taken off the date. You can also do an addition if you want. If I say addition, you can see 24 days is added to the date. We can also do unary addition. Let me comment all these out and print DT1. I can now have a unary addition by adding maybe 10 more days to DT1 by doing DT1 plus equals to time delta days equals to 10. So I've added 10 more days to DT1. Then I can print out the value of DT1, and you will see here that 10 more days have been added to DT1 because I use a unary addition. Of course, I can also do minus. If you do minus, you'll see 10 days has been taken off the first date we have here. I can also divide or multiply a time delta by integers. So let me do print DT1 minus time delta. I'm going to minus it by 10 days. I want you to print out. Let me comment all these out and say DT1 comma. So I want you to print DT1, put this one, and then print out the date. I don't want it to print out the time, so I'm gonna do, if you want to do, just get the date on a DateTime, say DateTime with the method date. So it shows me only the date. It takes out all the time. So now on this time delta, I have time delta on this date. I subtracted 10 days. So instead of 28 days, you have 18 days. What you can do with time delta is that you can actually divide the time delta, say divide it by 2. Instead of 10 days, it's going to be subtracting by 5 days. You will see here it's 28 days subtracted by 5 days. You have 23 days. You can also multiply the time delta by an integer. Of course, this will add 20 days. That is 10 days plus 2 will give you 20 days, and that will be subtracted from the date time value you have here. So it's going to subtract 20 days. You see the date is 28 here, and at this point is 08. You can do comparison with DateTime Class, and you can use a time delta to change the value of the comparison. Let's take a look at this example. I have here 2 dates. When I compare DateTime 2 and 3, when I say DT2 greater than DT3, is DT2 greater than DT3? This is on the 23rd, so it's greater than the date that started on the 10th. So DT2 1. What if I add some days to DT3? So I can come and say plus time delta another 15 days. Now, because I added 15 days, you can see that it has changed to DT3. So it means DT3 now is greater because of this evaluation. Another thing you need to understand also is that when you add any date time with a time value, it returns back a date time. When you say date time plus or minus time delta, it returns date time. But when you say date time minus date time, when you do this, you minus one date time from another date time, it returns a time delta. The value it returns is a time delta. Just look at it. Usually, time delta will give you number of days as a result. So when you subtract two dates, it's going to give you time delta. It's going to tell you the number of days difference. Let's look at it in this example. Let me print out DT2 minus DT3. Let me comment this out. So DT3 minus DT2 is giving you these outputs. If you remember, this is how time delta output is. And if you want to see that, I can say the type of the value DT3, DT2 minus DT3. What type does it return? So it's showing time delta. So, but when you subtract a date time from a time delta, DT2 minus time delta, days, say 10 days, I print results and also print the results type. Because I subtract a time delta from a date time, it returns a date time. Let's take an exercise from the date module that we just went through. We're going to have an exercise where we return the age, that is the year, the month, the date from today's date. So whatever age you enter is going to show us the year and the month and the days that have passed for that date. What we're going to do here is, first of all, get today's date. And to get today's date, I'm just going to say today is, I can get today using the date time. Today, this will print out the current date. You can also do now. Now will give you the same thing with just some little difference. There is also UTC now for today's date. So to make it simple, I'm just going to take today. Today also works for date. If you're using the date class, it's going to give you today's date, just the date. But if you're using the date time, it's going to give you the date and the very minute and seconds we are. So I have today, and then I'm going to create any date of birth. I'll say 1993, and the month is on the 10th month, on the 3rd day. I have two date times with two different dates. So I'm going to print out that today's date is today, and I will also print out date of birth. And to get the number of days, total days, I'm going to say today subtracted by DOB. So if we print total days, it's going to say total days is 10,385 days in total. Note that using DateTime, I have already imported from DateTime. I've already done that up somewhere there. I've imported DateTime. That is why I'm able to call the DateTime class. And you know, it's actually bringing out values for minutes and seconds for time, and I really don't want date time. I just want to work with date. So I'm going to change this. I'm going to import date, and then I'm going to change this to date. Date will work also. Yeah, so it has just the date, doesn't have the time attached to it. And you would remember, if you're using a date time or a date and you are subtracting them, the result that will be returned will be a time delta. And that is why it's giving you 10,385 days and 0 seconds. This is a time delta value. And if I just want it to return just the days, I'm going to say, I will put these in a comma and say days. So it's just going to give me 10,385 days. So to calculate the number of years, this is easy. All I'll do is say total days. I'm going to divide it by 365. So I can print out years, is years. So he's 28 years old. I'm going to calculate the months. And let me just spit the code for months calculation. The code for months calculation is, we have 28 years multiplied by 360 to get the number of year as we calculated here. And then you subtract it from the total number of days. So it's going to give you a remainder, some numbers that you will divide by 30 to give you the number of months that remains. Months will be months. So that is 5 months. To calculate the number of days, I'm just going to paste the code for number of days here. Also, to calculate the number of days is the total year, same way you did calculating the number of months, and then you also multiply that number of months by 30. Months multiplied by 30, subtract it from this value. That will give us days. It's all some little mathematics there. So days will be days. If I say 1903, that is 118 years, 6 months, and 8 days. This date of birth is hard-coded. In a real-world instance, the program should be able to have a dynamic date of birth so that anybody that comes in to use the program can put in his date of birth and can get the result. So in this example, I'm just going to modify this code so that we can have the date of birth coming in into the code, and the date of birth being imputed on the command line. So right here, I'm going to say get in, use the input command to enter the date of birth. Enter your date of birth. So I'll take in the date of birth here. Let me comment these out just for now. If I print the date of birth, the date list here, you will have to do that from your code line. So let's assume what comes out, because when you do inputs, you get data from your code line, it actually gives you a string. So let's say the string is 1999, comma 10 months, comma 03. Let me do this description. Year, month, date. I'm going to comment this out. If I print 1999, this is going to print out this as a string. If I want to separate it, I can use the string split method, and I'll say split it using slashes. Everywhere it sees a slash, is going to split it into a list. So it prints out this splitted into a list. These are strings, even though they are numbers, but they are in strings. So I need to convert these outputs to integers. And the way to do that is to use the map method. I'll say DOB2, I'll say map integer. I'll explain what that does, but we've treated it. You can go and check out our other tutorials to see how that works. So date list split. This returns a map object, DOB2, and then I can just put this map object in a list, DOB2, and then you can see it returns this value this way. So whatever you put in is returned this way. It's no longer coming out as string, it's coming out as integers in a list. So this is what we're going to do. We get that list in an integer, and then we spread the values inside the date function. We'll put all these values, we'll spread it inside the date function. So let's rename this to DOBM, that is DOB map. And I'm going to do DOB lists. So I'm going to convert what is in the map to a list. That's DOBM to a list. And then the date of birth will be date. Then I'll put DOB lists and spread the value, asterisk, to spread the value into a date. So with this, the content of DOBL is 199,10,03. With the asterisk, when you do asterisk DOBL, it's going to just spread it this way. This is what it's going to do. It's going to put this right in here. I'm going to create the date of birth directly using this, and if I uncomment my code, you will see it's using this date as my date of birth, and it's getting out the result using this date. And like I said, I don't intend to use a hard-coded date, so I'm going to comment this out and use a date list. That is, I want it to get the data from the command prompt. So I'm going to run my code from the terminal. So right here at the terminal, you can see it says enter your date of birth. I'll say 1999-10-03, and I press enter. You can see here it's gave me that same result, 22 years, month, and all that. I can run it again, put another date, say 1975-05, that's the month 11. It's going to give me 46 years, 10 months, 15 days. Let's look at date formatting. Dates are formatted in different ways in different countries or for different purposes. In some country like US, they use month, day, and year. While in country like UK, it's kind of reversed. They use day first, month, then year. In my country, this is what we use. Python uses the strftime method to convert date to a readable format. So use the string strptime to convert string to a Python date format. The syntax is the strptime string, the string you want to change, and then the format you want it to be in. If you look at this chart, it shows you the formats you can put your string. They are all listed here. If you go to the Python documentation, it's going to show you all this. For short and long weekends, you use the A for short, and the big A, %big A for long weekend. That is, if you type in something like Wednesday, if you wanted to show Wednesday, if you wanted to show only WED, you'd use the small a. If you wanted to show the full Wednesday, you use the capital A. Day of the month, you use the D, which is from 01 to 31. The B for month, like JAN, January. Big B is going to show you big B is going to show you the full January. Of course, if you want to do month number from 1 to 12, you can use the M. Year, long year, and short year. Then you can check them out. Okay, let's check out some example of using our string formatting functions. Okay, let's use this date one and format the string. Date one strftime. I'm going to put in the string I want to format it with. %A, %D, for the date, A for the week, and Y for the year. Okay, so let's do a printout. Let me comment out all this. Date unformatted is date 1. So this is what it is when I haven't formatted it. But when I format it using this, okay, let me start it in a variable called date1f. So date1f is, so print date formatted date1f. This is formatted this way. If I change this to capital A, it's going to change to Monday. The small a is for the day of the week, short form of the day of the week. I can actually do, let me just do 2 of them. Put these in the, you can actually just play around with it. Look at, I have mon, which is this. Then in a comma, I have the capital there. Then D for day on the 23rd, and Y for 2000. So there is another string method we can use with DateTime, and that string method is used to create dates from a string. The method is strptime. It takes in a string, and right in here it tells us the format of the string, how the string is formatted. So knowing this, the method will be able to convert your string to date. So let's take an example. Let's say string 1 is 2021 0906. Okay, that's a string. So I'm going to store in dates 11. I'm going to store a date time string p time. So it's going to take in my string and then the format of my string. You see right here, my string is year, and this is how we get the year, full year. And then my string is also, the next one is the month, 09, month, 06 is the date. There is a slash in between this. So I can print out my date here. So it's going to print out the date. It's going to convert this to date. If we print out the type now, type of date 11, it's going to show us now that this is now a DateTime value. Let's take a look at our print age program again. The print age program takes in the current date and then subtract the current date from your age. This is assumed to be your age, so we store it in day string. We did the method in which we use this code to convert this string to a list like this. And this is what we did. We did day string, we split the day string, and when you do this, it's actually going to split it out into a list, but it's going to be a list of string. That is what this command will do. But with the map list, it's going to convert that string to a list of integers. And what we now did was we created a date using that list of integers, and we put an asterisk before the list of integers. What the asterisk does is that it creates a date. Instead of doing this, inserting the list completely inside the dates class, it's going to spread it into the date class. So when you get today's date and you get the date of birth, we print out today's date, we print out the date of birth, we'll print out the total number of days, how old he is in days. You're going to see total days is this. We also got the total years and then the total month, and then we also calculated the total days, and we printed it out in this format. As you can see here, year is days, month is 2, and days is 4 days. Getting today's date is quite easy, but with the method we went through, converting the date of birth to a format that it will be acceptable by the date class is kind of a bit complex. I'm going to show you 2 other ways that we can do this that can make it a little bit easier than using this format. Now, I'm going to say DOB underscore, and I'm going to use a list comprehension. Let me comment this out. A list comprehension returns a list, and I'm going to say for value in date string dot split. What I'm doing with date string dot split is that it converts this date into a list, but is a list of string. So when it converts it, each of the string is going to be converted to an integer. So it's going to take one each item in the list, each of these, take this and it converts it to an integer. It does it for all the other item in the list, and then it puts it back into a list and it stores it in DOB, and then of course it spreads it into the date format. So this is another method. I'll call this the second method of doing that. This is method 1. This is method 2. You can see it brings out this information. So this is a little bit quite easy if you're not very comfortable with using this. Now, the third method is using the STRP time that we just did. That is a little bit easier. We're not doing any conversion. We're not using a list comprehension. We'll just convert directly the date to the format we want. This is what we'll do in the third method. I'm going to comment this out. I'm going to say method 3. I'm going to put method 3 here, and DOB, I'm going to comment that out, and I'll say DOB is equals to DateTime dot strp time, and I'm going to put the date string here. As you know, strp converts a string date to a date time. When we do that, we'll specify the format we want it to convert it to, %y/%m/%v. So with this format, it converts this date to a DateTime value. Let me print out DOB now. Let me comment all these out. So if I print out DOB, you can see it converts it to a DateTime value. It takes the string and then converts it to a DateTime value. Let me uncomment it again. So I'm going to convert that DateTime value to just a date. So I will put all this in a comma, and then I will call the date method on the output. This returns the DateTime value, and then I'm calling the date method of DateTime. So DOB now is just a date and not a DateTime. If I print it out, DOB is DOB. So you see DOB is just a date now. It's no longer a DateTime. So I'll take this out, and just with this one line, instead of doing all this complex methods, with this one line using the STRP time, I can achieve the same thing. If you want to get your input from external source, instead of coding it here, you comment these out and use this date string. So this date string takes in the value from the terminal, and of course we can run that, run the terminal. The code in the terminal is going to ask, enter your date of birth. I can say 1987 in the format as shown, 0905. And with that entered, it gives me the number of years, the month and the date, and then the other values as expected.